Good day, folks. This is video number 38 for the 3D Experience CATIA generative shape design application. The particular topic that I'm going to discuss or present is the connect curve icon. When you are in the generative shape design and select the wireframe tab, you have a pull-up menu, and one of the items in it is a connect curve. Essentially, it takes two curves and connect them together with some kind of a curve. And my guess is that it's a spline curve without any restriction on, for example, that curve being a circle with a given radius. That was exactly what Corner did. Okay. So once you click on the connect curve, this dialog box opens up, and there's a pull down menu which has two options, normal and base curve. And I'm going to start with normal first, and then we go to base curve. And we make it simple in a sense that these curves are not actually sitting on a surface. Later on, we're going to come back and repeat what is done, but the curves being on a surface, okay? And what I'm doing is basically replicating the stuff that Mr. Laden, the YouTube channel does. And he's using CATIA V5, and I'm using the 3D Experience CATIA. But of course, these are pretty much the same. They are almost the same, except for the interface and the icons and the menu structure. Okay. All right, and here is the first page of the online help in 3D Experience. Okay, let's go ahead here. I'm going to create two curves, and these are, don't worry about numbers and things like that. These are pretty much arbitrary. So on that vertical plane, which is the YZ plane, I will draw a spline. Yeah, something like that. Exit. This was on the YZ plane, and on the XZ plane, I'll draw another spline. Another spline. Perhaps something like this. Okay, exit. So we have two curves here. And let me hide these planes. Okay, we have two planes here, and they have nothing to do with each other. So we use the connect curve, and we are discussing the normal operation right now. So you have to, from the first curve, doesn't matter which one you call first, which one is second. For example, I call this one first. From the first curve, you have to select a point right there. And as soon as you do that, of course, automatically it knows that it belongs to sketch 2. And there's a default tangency here. We come to these later. From the second curve, you have to select a point. Again, for simplicity, I'm going to use this point. And it identifies it as being on sketch 1. And this is what happens. Immediately, it connects these two curves together with something. Now, over here, it looks like they're going the right direction. Over here, you have to flip the arrow, or what is called reverse direction, so that it looks more reasonable. Now, you have the option of choosing tangency. These curves, the connect curve and these curves are tangent to each other. Or you can use point continuity. In other words, there's a break here. This is not smooth. And same thing, by the way, to the other connection. If it's point, just a straight line. Let me put this thing back to tangent. Or you can use curvature. In other words, continuous curvature from the top curve 1 to the connect curve. And the same thing with the other one, curvature continuity. There's also a tension here which controls the shape of this connection. You can see that by fooling around with these numbers, you can change the shape of this. Okay, this is called tension, which is very common in splines. Okay, that's pretty much it. By the way, if you reverse these direction, everything is going to be okay, except that it doesn't look like what you're looking for, what you may be looking for. All right, so that's good. That's the first problem. I'm going to delete this connect, or we can deactivate it or delete it. I'm going to delete it. Now, I'm going to create a point on this spline, top spline, point on a curve. And for example, a point, move this thing out of the way, maybe here, okay? And I do a point on this one, point on a curve, this curve, and right there. So let's repeat what we just did. We have two curves. These are the two curves that we had, and there are 2 points on them. And we can go to connect curve, normal operation. For point, I select this point, and immediately it recognizes that that point belongs to that sketch. And for the other curve, the point, I select this point on it. It looks like that. So basically, it starts from that point and brings it to the point down here. Incidentally, this doesn't look good, so I'm going to reverse the direction like that. Now notice that there are some leftovers here. If I say okay, this is what's going to happen. So there are these leftovers that I may not want. So double clicking on connect, you can first of all notice that you can control again the point continuity, tangent continuity, and curvature, exactly the same thing as we did before. Right now it's on tangent, the same thing with the other one. You can control the shape of these by fooling around with the tension. Okay, and there's a trim option here. Now the only problem is that I cannot go and use the trim option now. So let me do this. Let me close that. I'm going to delete this. Try it again. Connect. Normal. There's the point. For the second one, there's the point. Okay. With this one, reverse the direction. Now I want to trim it. You trim element. You can activate the trim now. And you say, okay, when you do that, it's going to clean up those extra pieces. Okay. So that essentially shows you how the normal mode of the connect curve works, and but in the simplified situation where these things are not on surfaces. We're now going to go to the base mode. We'll now discuss the base curve situation. So I've deleted everything. We'll do it again. On that horizontal plane, I will sketch a spline. So perhaps something like that. Exit. Good. And on on this plane, on this vertical plane, I will sketch another spline, like so. So we have two splines here, and I'm going to be creating 2 points on these splines. One of them perhaps on a curve somewhere there. And then another one over here on this one. Yeah, that'll do it. Good. So we have 2 splines and 2 points. Now these splines are, we can see that they're on different planes. This one is in the XY plane. The other one is in the YZ plane. Okay. So we click on the connect curve, change this thing to base curve. Whatever you pick as the base curve must also be picked here as the second curve. Okay. So for example, if I select this as my base curve. This is my base curve. Down here, it's going to be that. Okay, so for first curve, I need a point. So obviously this is the first curve. There is the point, and the curve is there. For the second curve, it's the base one. So I select, for example, this point. Notice that what it does, it actually connects this point on the base curve to that curve. All right. And if I say trim element, this is what's going to happen. So let's go back here one more time. Sketch 2, which is sketch 2, which is this. This is sketch 2. This is your base curve. And for first curve, I selected that point and this curve. For the second curve, I have to take the point over here. Now, it is possible to change that point, for example, to select this, okay, and say, okay. Notice that it will give you a different curve. So it is possible to do other things. So let's try this point. That point will give you that, okay? Now remember, this was my base curve. The curve follows the base curve, it follows it, okay? But if you select this, for example, this point, clear that, clear that. So this point, notice that it follows that, okay? It follows that base curve. This is not very commonly used, but there is one more thing that I want to show you about this, which you may find more useful. Frankly speaking, I don't find this base curve very useful, and this is why you rarely see any references to it by other YouTubers. But anyway, but there's something that is important I want to show you. So let me close that. In fact, I'm going to delete this. All right. And we don't need both of these. I'll just hide one of them. Okay, I'll hide this point. It's not necessary. Okay, let me create another point. Let me create another point on this curve. Another point on this curve. So maybe over here. Okay, so I have a curve and I have 2 points. Now let's go and say connect curve, base curve. For base curve, I use this. There's only one curve here. For point on the first curve, I select one of these. For the second curve, I select the other one, okay? And I say, okay. So look at what happened. I can hide this sketch. See this sketch? I can hide it. Or this sketch, see this sketch? That's this sketch. I can hide it. Look at what happens. So what you get is portion of that sketch between these 2 points. This can be more useful than the one that I showed you with two splines, for example. And as I said, you have very little control over that. And it's not, unless it's a very specialized application, it's not very useful. But this is. All right, so next thing is I show you some of the stuff on surfaces. Okay, first things first, let me go ahead and make a surface. So on that vertical plane, I will sketch maybe a spline like that, exit, and I will extrude that. Okay, so let me say 300. See how it looks like? Yeah, that's good. Okay, good. So we have a surface. On that plane, I will sketch two splines. Maybe this one. Exit as separate ones, of course. And another one. It can be any 3D curve, but it's easier for me to do it as another spline on that same height. Exit. Okay, so I have, let me hide that backspace, sketch. And I don't need these planes, so let me hide them. All right. So we have one surface, two splines above it. Okay. It just happens that they're at the same height, but they don't have to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to project these into that surface. So project this one into that surface right there. I'm going to project the other one into that surface. There we are. And these original curves I'm going to hide. I don't need them. This I'm going to hide. And this I'm going to hide. But the projections are there. Okay. So let me select 2 points on these curves. Okay. So let me, for example, go ahead and say point on curve, on that curve. Okay. How about a point like that? To another one, another point on that projection, maybe something like this. Okay. Now let's go to corner. Not corner, connect curve. And I'm going to do it with normal. Okay. For the first point, I'm going to select this point. And of course, automatically the curve is selected. For the second curve, I'm going to select this other point. Let me move this thing out of the way. And automatically the curve has been selected. And look, the curve has automatically been created connecting these. See that? See this? Let's change one of these. So for example, instead of that point, I'm going to select maybe this point. The curve changes. Okay, and you can do that tangency. You can do that with quadrature, quadrature curvature, etc. What if I, for example, changed this point to that point? Okay, you can flip the arrows to get it the way you want. So the moral of the story is that whatever we did on planes, on planar curves, can also have a support, which is a surface. You can see that.